Okay. Time now is 7:52 a.m. on January 9th. I slept from 4 a.m. Um to 7:45. So this is 3 hours and 45 minutes. It's less than 4 hours. Fuck. My bad. I was carried away last night. I just after coming back home from USC last night, I did nothing. I just you know, and then I got carried off, and then I slept very late. I really cannot do that. Even though tomorrow I believe it's like a 2 p.m. class, I really, you know, need to sleep early. Thank God tomorrow's 2 p.m. Um, and yeah, at around 4:20, my phone started ringing because it detected moisture in the USB port, so I had to unplug the phone from charging, so it didn't charge at all. Also, even though it's 3 hours and 45 minutes, it felt like forever. It felt like 20 hours because I think I woke up 1 hour before before the alarm rang. I already woke up, and I feel like I woke up a whole hour before the alarm rang, and then I kept falling back asleep, and then waking up and falling back asleep. I feel like I had so many dreams in the last hour, like non-stop dreaming. Um, I was in a I was in my apartment and I was like staying there for like a long time. I stayed in my old apartment. It felt like the apartment in Hong Kong, but also maybe an apartment I've never lived in. And I've been there for a long time. Just me and my helper, and I feel like I'm going insane because I'm stuck in the same room again and again and again. And I was imagining how, you know, I wanted to write a story about how in the beginning of the movie it literally starts like this, but it just gets crazier and crazier. Kind of like Beau is Afraid. You know, I wake up in an apartment and there's no one and I go insane. I don't know. I woke up like way before the alarm rang and I was waiting. At some point I thought I overslept and I was like, oh, wait. If I overslept, I should have heard an alarm. Last night, I was randomly invited into an Instagram group called Cliff's B-Day Plan, and it has 8 people in it. That's Victor, Takumi, Elin, Justin, Lewis, Lauren. I think there's a couple more I forgot, but I know everyone there. And so that's really cool that they remember me. It's really fucking cool. So yeah, and I remember this too. Cliff's birthday is this Friday. And it's cool because I'm free this Friday. I mean, I have a small class in the morning, but that's it. So I'm invited to the birthday party, and the thing is, I want to buy him a gift. I mean, the fact that he's going out his way to you know help me DP. I think I should just buy him a gift. And I kind of want to buy him a Blu-ray, a movie Blu-ray. But for that, I need to go to a Blu-ray store, and I only know Barnes and Noble, The Grove. So I feel like um probably on Thursday I'll go. I'll probably go on Thursday, unless I find another store of sorts nearby. Um, yeah, you know, I'm just gonna go. I know it's kind of crazy, because, like, I've been wanting to go to the Grove with Michelle, and if I go to the Grove with Michelle, I'll buy some Blu-rays. I'll buy a couple, I think. But, hmm. Um, yeah, and today is day 2 of USC, day 2, and, oh my god, I, kind of a mistake. I shouldn't have picked a 9 a.m. class, but this is literally the only section for World Building Design Studio. I am excited for World Building Design Studio. That's probably why my sleep was so bad. The excitement was, kept waking me up. But in my 4 classes, 3 of them are all lecture. But I have 1 class where I get to do something fun, and that's this one, World Building Design Studio. And that's very important. If I have a semester full of lectures, I'm going to die. So this is the fun one. Just so happens to be the morning class, which fucking sucks. And, yeah. Immediately after this, we have art history, which I'm also really pumped about because it's Asian art, antiquity, and then we're gonna reach the Middle Ages near the end of the semester, which is just the most exciting part, honestly. I'm such a nerd. Hopefully, I run into more interesting people. I haven't ran into a Hong Konger classmate yet. Hopefully, it changes today. Um, Hopefully, I see Glenn at some point. That would be nice. Fuck. Gotta go.
I just like
Okay, so Cliff isn't here. Maybe he's asleep. I don't know. I'm gonna walk to Best Buy. Look at this restaurant. The nostalgia. Alright, we're about halfway to Best Buy store. You know what? Cliff just woke up, so screw it. I'm walking back. About 10 minutes, 11 minutes back to the Culver Steps. Which is kind of the point of this short film. But, bro, what the fuck? Alright, time now is 2:22 a.m. in the morning on January 10th, but it's 9th for me. So let's talk about today. Damn, it's already 2:20 a.m. What the fuck? So today is quite dense again, and there's a lot to be said again. So today is day 2 of my life at USC, and I had a terrible sleep. Somehow I didn't feel like I'm dying inside, but the moment I go back home, I'm tired as fuck. I'm actually so tired right now. I feel a little dizzy. I'm just like crashing down, energy wise. Um, and yet I'm still standing around filming this. But yeah. So I arrived on time, and I had about 20 minutes to spare before my class begins. So first things first, I went to the transportation place again and asked what's up with my card. What's wrong? Why isn't my card working? So I went to a guy at a counter, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, the Metro hasn't validated your card," which is weird. I thought they did. So the guy was like, "Oh, I'm going to send this card number to them, and then by midday today, like you'll receive an email, and then you're good." So I'm like, "Okay, thank you." So that's resolved. Hopefully, turns out it is resolved. So finally, I can use my tap card. I tried it on a Metro today. It finally fucking worked. I'm so happy. I'm so insanely happy. So I don't have to pay for the next 4-ish months, 4.5 months. I don't need to pay for any transportation anymore. So, yippee-ki-yay. So, it's 8:50, and once again, I was at a dilemma. I either walk to the bookstore or I go to class, and I have 10 minutes left. SCA is like 6-7 minutes away. Of course, I'm going to class. So I turn back and I walk to SCA. So I arrived at SCA. This time I'm looking for SCB 101. And it's not the main building, but it's the building at the side. And it's weird because it's a Tuesday and there are a lot of students, and some of them are there, but they're not in my class, so I can't do the same thing I did yesterday, where I follow a crowd and end up in the right room. So I eventually found room 101, and I'm like, this is probably it. And there's like no one outside, and I entered it, and there's like no one. And then I left, and then I heard a Chinese woman saying, "Hey, are you a World Building Design Studio?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh, this way." So turns out we switched rooms. So now we're at room 104. So SCB, it's the right building. I found the right building. I entered it, and it's kind of like a lecture hall, but small lecture hall. And I was like I wasn't the first person to arrive, but I was the first person to sit in that lecture hall because the Chinese woman directly directed me into the room. And then I saw the professor, who is a white woman. She's like Lydia Tarr. I know it's a very strange reference, but she's like Lydia Tarr, the movie character. The suit, her hair, the length of her hair, her voice, it's basically Lydia Tarr. But she's very jumpy and neurotic. But like she stutters from time to time, and she talks a little bit, and she's like, "Okay, never mind," and then maybe this and maybe that, and she has a lot to say. But she saw me and she's like, "Oh, there aren't a lot of students today, so you can sit as close as you like." So I took that as a cue for sitting at the front. So I sat at the very fucking front, and boy did I regret that, and of course my laptop is fucking screaming right now. I love it when it happens. So I sat at the very front, and then other students started coming in. There's a Chinese girl, there's a Chinese guy, there's a Chinese American girl who is 100% Californian, and then 3 other white people. That's it. 4, I think. So there were 8 students. And then the class begins, and everyone took out their laptop. And I also brought my laptop, not because of class, but because of the shot list that I'm going to be doing with Cliff. But I took it out and it was noisy, and I really didn't like using my laptop. The battery's draining, so I just shut it off. But then I'm like, oh, you know what? Let's use my laptop. And then I'm like, no. So I turned it on and shut it off at least 4 times a day in that class. Um, but yeah, so class begins, and man, this is interesting actually. So this class isn't just using 3D modeling softwares and VR or whatever. This class is mainly about world building, like literally about world building. Like, we need to do a world building document, which is like a TV show Bible or a movie Bible, but for world building. We talk about the world, the architecture, the language. Holy fuck, I'm literally into that. I'm so into that sort of stuff. Um, and there's also group project. It's not a huge group project. Usually this professor doesn't have group projects. But it's like, alternate semesters. Some semesters she does include it in the syllabus, some semesters she doesn't. It's by chance. This time she does, and it's like a whatever group project. It's like, who cares? It's like for fun. So from week 1 to week 5, we have like a mini group project where we work on something really easy, and then there's a term long project, and it's individual. From week 1 to the last week, the final project, and it's way more in depth and it's individual. So yeah, the professor went through the syllabus, and it's interesting, yeah, but I was also like very fucking tired. But it is very interesting, and it's cool that I get to go to a class like this. I realize I'm speaking very loud. Fuck. It's very cool that I get to go to a class like this. And yeah, and then we had 2 breaks. 2 very short 10-minute long breaks. And then after the first break, one of the girls just left. And she left because of prerequisite. And during the first break, I immediately moved myself from the very front row to the second front row, where most of the people are sitting. The Chinese girl, the 2 white guys, whose name is Nathan and, oh my god, there's so many people. Nathan and Soren, and they are friends already, so they're tight. And I sat beside them, but I'm like awkward because I'm shy and I'm not like, I'm not extroverted, and I'm not a proactive person. I don't know how to start conversations. So I just sat there like an idiot, waiting and waiting. And there are a couple of moments where the professor encourages students to speak up, raise their hands. There's an exercise. We did an exercise together where we basically had to count everything we have on us right now, all our clothes and all our belongings, including our phones, wallets, the cards in our wallets, our laptops, the food we bring, if we had brought any medication or like whatever. And at some point, the professor asked if anyone here has cash from other countries, because they're international students and we exist. And me and a couple other people raised our hands, and by a couple people I mean a couple other Chinese people. And then she's like, "Well, what is it for? It's useless here." And I jokingly said, "Oh, for memory reasons, for remembering." And then the whole class laughed. It wasn't a big laugh; it was a chuckle. But I felt successful. I'm like, "Ooh, I said something cool." And a little bit later, the professor rounded back, and she's like, "Oh yeah, there was a student who said something," and I'm like, "Me, memorabilia," and she's like, "Yes." So that's a really good category of items to bring along. So that's cool. And then immediately we form groups. So now there are 7 students left. This is so sad. This is like Psychology 14, maybe less bad. Psychology 14 is like 6 students. Us, we have 7, unless people start dropping out. but immediately we formed two groups, and it's boys versus girls, 4 dudes versus 3 girls, and immediately we joined arms, right? So I don't know about Nathan, but both Soren and the Chinese guy, whose name I forgot, Wei Ting, I think. Both of them are like film production students, and they're master degree students, graduate school. Me, I'm Cam's undergrad. Soren is master's graduate film production last semester. He has nothing to do, so he decided to spend some time taking a fun class. This is literally my first semester. I told them that, and they're like, "Oh, okay. How do you think so far?" And I'm like, "It's interesting." And they're like, "Okay, be honest with us." So it was chill. It's a little weird because like the whole vibe is different. In my previous college, it's mainly dominated by Latinos and Asians that are not Chinese. I mean, of course, we have a few Chinese people here and there, but we have an abundance of Japanese people and Malaysians and just Asian Americans in general. Vietnamese here, Thai there, a Korean here, Taiwanese there, and it's a nice mixture. But in USC is a different vibe. Socially, it's very different. But I was still able to get along, and so the group project is we need to create a world, but the world is simple. It's a simple, small project. It's limited. So we ended up choosing a vehicle because that's an interesting place to design. And the context is it's apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic, and it's underground, and we're transporting something inhuman, maybe animals. So that's what we got. And so the class ended. It's nice. It went on very long, but it's okay. And again, it's cool to have one class out of 4 classes where I get to do something fun and, do something. So that's that. And I checked, there are no prerequisites. I'm cool. I debated myself because I'm taking 2 units where I don't need to. It's not a major requirement. It's not a minor. It's not gonna help me with anything. I'm taking this class just because it's cool. But you know what? I'll take it. So there's that. Now, we enter the second class. So I walked. Okay, right before I left, so there's a Chinese guy waiting. Spoke with him a little bit because he's from northern China, and I could immediately tell by his face and his look. And the professor was like, "Oh, it reminds you of that director who always depicts northern China, but I forgot his name." And in my head, I immediately thought of Jia Zhangke. And then when the professor was like going through her laptop tabs on her MacBook, I saw Jia Zhangke pulled up. So I immediately knew the Chinese student probably told her. So I spoke to the Chinese student, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Jia Zhangke. He's my teacher." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Wow, that's so cool." And I told him that I watched Still Life and I really liked it. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I worked on Still Life. I worked with the actor." And I'm like, "Oh, I know there's like another character who's a woman." And the Chinese guy was like, "Oh, it's his wife, Jia Zhangke's wife." And I'm like, "Oh." So that's really interesting. I am in the same class with Jia Zhangke's student. Miles' dad works for David Lynch. And I think one of the professors in my previous college is friends with Paul Thomas Anderson. Connections, baby. Anyways, second class begins. I walk to DMC, aka the Dr. Crow Medicine Center. Dr. Medicine Crow Center. I'm so sleepy. And I had about 20 minutes left. I could immediately take my burrito out and eat it, but I decided not to because it's not the right time and I'm tired as fuck. Who cares? So I entered the classroom, and at first I was skeptical because it doesn't feel like there's a lot of people, but I entered it anyways. Turns out I'm in the right class. It's not a lot of people. It's about maybe 20 people, and once again, half of us are Chinese. Or I think there's a couple Koreans in there. There's an Indian girl sitting in front of me. Also, I say in front, but we're all in rolly chairs. So we can all like roll around, which is really comfortable. But yeah, so this professor, her last name is Lee, and it's either Hong Kong or Korean. I thought she's Korean because the TA is Korean. But when she started speaking, her accent made me start to think that she's a Hong Konger. It's a Hong Kongers accent. It's not a very typical Hong Kongers accent, but I could pick it up. I know that Hong Kongers can sound like that. So who knows? Maybe in the future, when I see her again 2 days later, maybe the truth will be revealed. Who knows? But I'm excited. The class is very interesting. I looked at the syllabus and there's a lot of Buddhist art, samurai, Song Dynasty landscape painting. I'm gonna go off on that class. Seems extremely interesting. Unfortunately, I'm gonna miss one of the classes due to my short film, but just one. But yeah, the professor is not very great. She makes it sound very boring. Also, there isn't a lot of chances for interactions and for speaking up. I never spoke up, but I can imagine this class being fun for me. For a lot of people, it may be boring, but I am enjoying it. And when she was teaching, I'm envisioning in my head, I'm the teacher. I would teach it like a million times more interesting. And I would also like pronounce all the words accurately because I can. All the Japanese words, all the Korean words, all the Chinese words. In Mandarin and Cantonese, I'll pronounce them all. I will pronounce all these words accurately. So, there's a presentation. So hey, I get to impress everyone now. But yeah, I'm glad group projects are a thing. Group projects is a thing. I'm so glad that so far in the 3 classes I've taken, group projects is also a thing. Which is great, because I want to meet people. That's the whole point of being at USC, is to meet people. So, yeah. But yeah, the class ended really fast. At 12:50 it ended, and then I immediately walked to the bookstore. Oh yeah, before I entered DMC, I went to the bookstore. It's my first time going to the bookstore, and what the fuck? It's not a bookstore. There are multiple layers to it. It's like a mall. It's like an H&M. The basement floor is the bookstore. The first floor isn't. The first floor feels like an H&M. But instead of selling cool, fashionable clothes, it sells USC merch. But also cool, fashionable clothes, like jackets and shirts. And it's very hilarious and weird. And I went downstairs and I asked a random cashier if it's hiring, and they're like, go up and ask. I went up and asked. I asked a guy, and he's like, oh, ask that guy. He's a supervisor. I asked the supervisor, who's Asian, and he's like, oh, we're not hiring. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he said, if we're hiring, we'll post it on Connect SC. I just checked Connect SC. They're hiring for photographers, which I may or may not apply for. But, okay, that's a thing. Took art history class, returned to the bookstore. I didn't go into the bookstore, I went to the little empty area beside it to eat lunch. I remember shooting a scene in USC for John L. short film, and we sort of passed by this little lounge area. I went to the exact same lounge area and ate my burrito there. And then I moved on to part 2 of today, which is doing the shot list with Cliff. So I promised Cliff 2:30-ish, Culver Steps. Culver City, Culver Steps. It's a nice place. There's a lot of cafes where you can talk. It's nice. So after the burrito, I went off. I took the metro, and I went to Culver City. And the thing is, okay, my laptop just... This is hilarious. So I went to Culver City, and before I went onto the metro, I texted Cliff again. And I'm like, hey, 2:30, yes, And then after I left the metro, I'm already at Culver City. I texted him again, hey, I'm on my way. And then when I arrived, I texted him, I'm there. He's not reading any of those. So I immediately assumed that he's asleep. Turns out he is asleep. And I was gonna just wait. I'm not mad, but yeah. I'm gonna go anyways because, I'm just gonna wait. If Cliff is asleep and he's late, I'm just gonna wait. It's fucking fine. So I kept waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and no response. I DM'd Victor, and he's like, "Oh, I just got off work. You gotta ask Lewis." So I followed Lewis, the Dutch Cuban, on Instagram and DM'd him, "Hey, is Cliff asleep?" No response. So I'm just like, I have no idea what to do. So, spur of the moment, I thought, fuck it, might as well walk to Best Buy. Because another thing I was simultaneously stressing about was actually buying a gift for Cliff for his birthday. Maybe that's a little extra, maybe not. But I feel like, given that Cliff cooked for me and several other people on Christmas, I want to give something to him. And I already decided that I'm going to give a Blu-ray, but I don't know what movie. And I don't want it to be too expensive, let's be honest here. But the fact that I spent over 18 bucks for Pepper to give her a scarf, which she'll probably never use, I can give Cliff a Blu-ray. So, yeah, and then Best Buy, I know they sell Blu-rays. I heard that they're beginning to remove them, but they're probably still there. And I've never been to a Best Buy in my entire fucking life. There's one in Culver City. It's 22 minutes away by foot. But you know what? I have plenty of time. Let's go. So I walked, and I had a lot of time to kill. I listened to music, and I walked, and it's chill. And then about halfway through the walk, at 3:15, 3:16 p.m.-ish, Cliff finally woke up and DM'd me, "Oh, I'm so sorry. My alarm went off, but I didn't hear it, and I'll be here as soon as possible." And I'm like, okay. So I decided to walk backwards. It's a bad idea. A, it's cold as hell. B, I'm already sleep deprived. If I have to spend 40-something minutes back and forth, not a good idea. And also my legs are hurting. So I don't know if I should show this or not. But my left leg right now hurts a lot. And this has never happened to my left leg. This happens to my hands and feet, but not like literally on the leg. But there are red lines. The weather's so dry and cold that my skin has cracked up at my left leg. And it got really fucking bad. At first I just wanted to ignore it, but it got worse and worse. So I sat down at the Culver steps and I grabbed some hand moisturizing cream and I rubbed on it. Jesus Christ, it stings. But at least I did something to remedy it. So right now I applied some more moisturizing lotion. Hopefully it heals because damn it hurts. But yeah, I eventually did buy Paprika Blu-ray and it's gonna arrive on January 14th. Not 14th, it's gonna arrive on January 11th, the Thursday. And then immediately on Friday I'm gonna give it to Cliff. If it arrives any later, I'm screwed. So hopefully I do it in time. So Cliff finally arrives at around 4:30. I waited for him for almost 2 hours. He's here, I'm not mad, but damn, And I feel bad for him because he slept at 4 a.m. To be fair, I also slept at 4 a.m. But he got off his set yesterday and he's tired. So we decided to do the shot list together. We went to a Starbucks. We found a couple of nice seats. I got myself a white chocolate mocha. The work begins. And for about 2 hours-ish, more than that maybe, we're just trying to format the script. Because my script is still a gigantic mess. As in, the scene numberings is wrong. I didn't use a software to number the scenes. I just typed it in with Microsoft Paint. And also the double column, double language thing, it's a mess because I also use MS Paint, which is very unprofessional, and Cliff is using a script lining software, which he's paying a lot of money for every single month. But he can't import a fucking PNG photo. It needs to be a script text file. So I used very roundabout ways to copy my entire script on Writer's Duet, put it on a Google Doc, share that Google Doc to Cliff. Cliff copies them chunk by chunk, scene by scene, onto Faden, which is his script software, and it's free for some reason. I need to buy it. And then he numbers all the scenes, and then he exports it, and that takes forever because the scene numbering is confusing. The double column stuff, he's basically typing it out word for word, the translations, and then there's like errors, like his laptop doesn't have a Chinese font, so when he exports it, it turns into white squares. But anyways, after that's done, it's already like 6 something p.m. It's already sunset, and then from 6:30 p.m. to 8, we finally started doing the shot list. And man, it took a long time. Usually, if I do my own shot list, I put on some music, I look at my phone, I look at the script, boom, 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 boom. Half an hour, I'm done. All I need is some music and a little time, and I can finish an entire shot list really fast. But when I'm collaborating with Cliff, it's a different story. And it's nice, and I'm so happy that I and Cliff are on the same wave. We're on the same wavelength. And he sort of understands my style now. Like, I really love... There's one joke scene where I show up as a cameo, and I walk into a restaurant, and I see the side character who looks like a zombie, and I get confused, and I leave. He asked me if I want a close-up of the zombie, or like the man, or a medium shot. When he asked me that, I immediately knew if I wanted a close-up or not. I don't want a close-up, because it's like, haha, look at his face, so funny, right? Laugh. But if it's a medium shot, it's like, you know, maybe it's funny, maybe it's not. But I'm going to be subtle about it. He immediately got it. I said, oh, I don't think a close-up works. And Cliff was like, oh yeah, I think so too. Because a close-up, I said a close-up is intentionally funny. So he gets it. And then there are a couple moments where I talked about, you know, like maybe a wide shot here, and then like, you know, this and that, and then the 90-degree like boom, and then the jarring cuts. So our visions really align. But you can also tell it's my style, because there's a transition in the short film where the main character goes from one space to another space, and the other space is like a dreamy, empty area. Originally, Cliff's idea of that transition is that the lights dim down and it turns dark and it becomes dreamy. But I don't do that, you know? My style is boom, hard cut, and he's already in a different space. I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm not that kind of guy. And he sort of gets it, so he just follows that up. So that's really nice. The Starbucks closed at 8, so we had to leave at 8. So we left at 8. But the shot list isn't finished yet. There's still one more shot to figure out. We figured it out together, and then we left. It's so insanely cold. I'm cold. I'm dry. I'm hurting. My leg's hurting. Hungry as fuck. I was going to bring a cookie to school today, because I didn't finish the 2 chocolate chip cookies. I forgot. I left the chocolate chip cookie here. And then I took the metro back home, and I missed a metro, so I had to wait a while. While waiting, I and Cliff looked at memes, photos of Cuchillo and the Indian professor. So funny. Cliff told me that a couple days ago Leslie shot her short film. Cliff didn't work on it, but a bunch of people did, like Jake P. Not Jake P, Justin P, you know. But yeah, wish her the best, I guess. But yeah. Yeah, not much else. I finally went back home, immediately ate food. And I had to wait a while before cooking dinner because I hear noises outside and I don't want to intrude. But I eventually cooked food, and goddamn, the kitchen is a mess. the dishwasher is leaking water again. And it's like a fucking swimming pool. And then there's like unwashed dishes, and my fork is missing. I don't know if it's because it's dropped beside the kitchen counter, or if Jesus took my fork and used it. Could be either way, but thank God I had a spare fork. I'm not using Jesus' fork, but I had a spare fork. Here. I have 2 forks, I think. I don't know, but I'm a resourceful guy. So I use a spare fork. I had rice, soy sauce, marinated chicken thighs, which doesn't taste bad, and gailang in oil water, which tastes pretty good. Simple dinner, nice. I'm gonna eat some ice cream later. It's a little late, but I crave some ice cream. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And whew, what a fucking day. And then there's also this group chat on Instagram between, there's like 13 or there's 12 people in this group chat. It's crazy. Me, Victor, Lewis, Justin, Takumi, Elin, couple random people that I've never heard of. There's Nick, who's this Latino who's in Film 32 last semester. Ariel's in it, Kiara's in it. There's another person, I forget, there's so many names. Justin, if I haven't mentioned him. And we kept talking today and joking because we're secretly planning Cliff's birthday party, and we're deciding whether we should go to his place or whether we should eat dinner together outside. So Lewis asked Cliff. Cliff was like, let's go outside. So yeah, we're going to the Cheesecake Factory on Friday. So that's happening. And at some point, our conversation in the group chat started to turn into meme posting. Lauren's in the group chat. Lauren posted a funny photo of Cliff's head being distorted. And I thought that it's so funny, and I immediately screenshotted it and made it like a dank meme, like a Rio de Janeiro filter. And then I posted it and immediately deleted it because I thought I had it cropped, and then I sent the right one, and everyone laughed. I laughed my ass off. So it's crazy that I'm invited to this group chat by Victor, I think. Again, it's like in secondary school, back in 2018, 2019, this shit will never happen. Even among a group of Hong Kongers, I will never be invited to any event, but somehow with Latinos and Malaysians and, Caucasians, somehow among them, I'm more accepted and I'm able to comfortably and confidently make memes and jokes. And Destin is in the group, right? Destin's in the group. It's wild. Another thing is Glenn. I spoke with Glenn a little bit. I was going to text Glenn when we should meet, but before I could text him, he texted me first. He's like, when should we meet? I'm free on Wednesday and Friday. I said Wednesday. Turns out my classes go until 6:50 p.m. on Wednesday. Not a good idea. Nuh-uh. So I'm going to do the free lifting again. Tomorrow night. Fuck. So we're meeting on Friday. So Friday's going to be exciting. I'm going to take a class, very short class, and then I'll meet up with Glenn. We'll have lunch together. Then I either go home and rest her for a little bit, or I directly head to Cliff's dinner party. Yeah, I'm so tired. Fuck. I'm going to bed. Okay, time now is 11:35 a.m. on January 10th. Yeah. So I slept from 4 a.m. to 11. I slept at 4 again. Fuck. Yeah, I really tried to sleep early. I really did, but I don't know. I didn't even watch any anime. I didn't edit any videos. I planned to, but I never did. I was just, I don't know, time is just going really fast, and I was kind of carried away. And last night I also spoke to Justin, and he was like complimenting me. He's like, Enoch, I know you're very good at writing scripts. Like, can you take a look at my script? Um, and then we talked a little bit about screenwriting and Chinese culture, and it's like kind of interesting. It's flattering. People are complimenting me. People are complimenting me, saying I'm good. Yeah, 7 hours of sleep, and then I went back to sleep after 11 a.m. and I slept for half an hour. I would, I thank God I woke up after half an hour because I actually did fall back asleep. But yeah, 7 hours. I am okay. Could be better, but yeah, you know, I God, it's so cold. Um, it's okay. 7 hours of sleep is fine. So today I'm going to third day of USC. It's going to be American film history plus from 6 p.m. From 6 p.m. to 6:50 it'll be discussion session for intro to film studies. And that's it. But I'm gonna go earlier because there's this thing called the immunization fair because I need to be immune to the fucking brain infection disease, and I need to scan an MRI for tuberculosis. I'm actually gonna take a fucking injection at USC, so that's gonna be fun. Um, yeah. Um, yeah. Hopefully my chapped skins are healed, and I don't know why, but like my phone, the phone I'm holding right now, the USB port is always wet. So it's like, and I think my the black cable that I always use to charge my phone and connect my phone to the laptop, it finally broke last night because of water damage or something. But yeah, that's pretty much it. But again, I'm resourceful. I have a spare USB line. I immediately pulled one out, and it's funny because like this is my laptop. Immediately at the side, this area, that's where I got the USB. This is a fun angle that I've never showed before. Also, last night, before I cooked dinner, when I was waiting for Jesus, I actually cleaned up the room a little bit. So originally I had like a blue microphone and my thick laptop, my Asus laptop, sort of stashed on the floor. But I've cleaned them up, and now you can see my thick laptop here and my microphone here. And then I even took out all the anime figurines and I laid them out, laid all of them out. So right here. So every time I woke up, the first thing I fucking see, anime girls, which is quite nice. But yeah. Hopefully I run into a Hong Konger today. Please make it happen. Please. Ha. Yeah. It'll be funny if there are no Hong Kongers in all four of my classes, which is very much possible. Yeah. The professor of art history is probably a Hong Konger. But yeah, we'll see. I think there's definitely a way for me to find out more Hong Kongers in USC. If I know one Hong Konger, I'll eventually know all of them. Whereas if you're Chinese, well, half the campus is Chinese anyways, so who cares? I think I'm gonna film something if I have time. But yeah, it's nice that I have time to kill. Okay, we're running out of time. Hardcore. Got 2.5 meatballs here. I don't know why it's not 3. It's 2. For fuck's sakes, there's a river down there. Okay, this is knife sliced noodles. Jeez. Okay. I have this one big pack of soup. I don't know what the fuck am I gonna do with this, so I'm just gonna pour a little bit in there, I guess. That's probably not enough. Okay. Alright, my soup, my noodles is ready. I think I have too much soup. I don't know, and I cooked it really fucking fast as well because I'm late for school. Actually, I'm already late, so that's great. But yeah, knife sliced noodles. I'm excited. Okay. Cheers. Smells so good. Probably the sesame oil. Very chewy. I should have cooked longer. But it's nice. I like the broadness of the noodles. Cooked through. Yeah, it's like right outside though, but alright, we're gonna sit down for this one, boys. So time now is 9:48 p.m. Okay, there are people outside of the room. Fuck. Yeah, so let's talk about today. Today I went to USC, day 3. And it is CTPR 394, which is a history of American film, 1960s to present day. So in the morning, I guess I'm just bad at time management, but I originally planned to leave at 12:50, which will give me, if I leave at 12:50 and I arrive at 1 p.m., that's going to give me about 1 hour of time to go to the immunization fair, which is, I have no idea what it is. It's like this place where I go to and I get to learn about like what sort of injections of vaccines I need to take. And then at 2 p.m. I have the class, 2 p.m. to 6 basically, or 5:50 actually. My time management is bad and I screwed up. I made myself tomato soup noodles, which I was very excited to make. Like, I've been planning to make this for a few days already. And that took me a lot of time. A lot of time to eat, a lot of time to finish, a lot of time to cook and then eat, So I was like, fine, I'll wait for 120. I missed the 120 bus, and by that I mean I started cooking at 1 p.m. Of course, I wouldn't make the 1:20 p.m. So I thought, okay, fine, I'll just eat very fast and I'll just take a Lyft. I'll just call Lyft, which sucks, but you know what? It's gonna be like $5, $6. I live so close to the campus, it's fine. And then I ate and I finished it and I dressed up and then I realized it's almost 1:50 p.m. Might as well take the 1:50 p.m. bus and save myself money and not take the Lyft. So I went for the bus. So yeah, I ended up being late to class by like 7 minutes. I didn't go to the immunization fair at all, which sucks because I'm supposed to go today. The fair happens all week, but they separated all the students into several groups, several last names. So my last name is LMNOP. My last name is Lai, Lai, so L. So I'm supposed to go today, but I ended up not going today. So I'm gonna go tomorrow. Which again, I don't know if it works or not, but it better work. I'm gonna go tomorrow. And I was worried that I'm gonna be late to class and it's gonna be annoying, and embarrassing. Thank God I arrived while the professor was taking attendance. And also, holy shit, out of the 4 classes, she's the only professor who's taking attendance. So I was worried that she already called my name and I wasn't there and she marked me absent. But thankfully, I was right on time. I sat down, I waited for a while, and finally she called my name. So that was kind of crazy that I was right on time. So I don't think I'm considered late. So yeah, so this is the Eileen Norris Theater, and once again, this is a place I've been to. When John L. screened his short film back in September, I was there, I went into this theater. So it's cool that I'm also in familiar territory. Like, I know this theater already. So I sat somewhere kind of far back, a loner seat, and I looked around, and yeah, it's not. I think 1/3 of us are Asians, and I think a good chunk of us are Chinese. I think that's like basically the assumption to make at this point. But yeah, I looked around and it's very sparse because it's a huge theater. This class is huge. It has like 50 people, but we're just scattered all across this giant theater, so it ends up feeling very sparse, and nobody tries to sit too front. And then we have the professor, who is a white woman who looks like a Karen. And she is probably the worst out of the 4. She is very stiff, she's very monotone, and she comes off very mean. She's not mean at all, but she comes off like, don't be late because it's bad. And she's the kind of person who wouldn't take a joke. Like, that's sort of like how it feels. Again, just like other classes, when I took this class, I always imagined myself being the teacher and how I would make it so much more interesting. Like, history of American film sounds boring as fuck, but if you think about it, there's actually a million ways to make it seem interesting, and I feel like I could do a better job. So, yeah. Anyways, the class started and it's fucking boring. It's again, the bald professor is still better. We don't have time for self-introduction or anything, which is sad because I love those actually. But yeah, the professor went through the slides. It's a PowerPoint slide, and she went through it really fast because there's a lot. It's very dense. And so she spent a lot of time talking about the first half of the PowerPoint presentation. She realized she's running out of time, so she speeds up. So at some point she started just jumping slides, and it's ridiculous. And she also doesn't send the slides to us, so we need to type. So everyone whipped out their laptop, aside from me. I didn't bring my laptop. So I just used notes and I wrote a lot of notes, and it's so bad. I can already tell that in terms of teaching, this class will be the worst out of the four. In terms of the film selections, though, this class will probably be my favorite. But yeah, this is gonna suck. Also, no group project, so it's not like the kind of class where you get to meet people. However, at some point, everyone turned around to look at someone in the back who was talking, and that gave me an opportunity to see who's in front of me. And holy shit, it's Ryan. I think he's Korean American, but I've seen him. He's in my 300 class. He's in my CTCS 300 class, the Intro to Film Studies. So after the small break, or during the small break, I grabbed my backpack and I went to him. There's also another girl who's Asian and she's very shy, and she sat a couple seats to my left. And at some point, she just gave up typing notes and she started drawing on a tablet, like a cartoon, which is hilarious. But yeah. I remember on my way walking to the Eileen Norris Theater, I heard a Hong Konger girl, but you wouldn't be able to tell. You would think she's just a Asian American girl. She dresses very Californian, and she's talking on her phone out loud, and she's speaking Cantonese. And I just like turned and I looked at her. But the hidden brothers and sisters are among us. They are among us, guys. I just need to find them, you know. Just like near the beginning of round 3, it's also kind of like that. I have to find the hidden brothers and sisters. Yeah. But yeah, we watched The Manchurian Candidate. The professor was like, "Who here watched The Manchurian Candidate?" And I raised my hand, but I sort of raised halfway, so she thought nobody watched it. But I was probably the actually only person who watched it in that class. We watched the whole thing. I thought it's just okay, and then we went up to the front to write down our name and our major on a piece of paper. It's sort of like like a survey, and that's it. And then I had to go to CTCS 300 discussion session. And coincidentally, Ryan, the other guy, also has the same discussion session. So I and him, we left and we hurried over to SCA. And again, we only had like less than 10 minutes. And because of the survey thing, we had less than 5 minutes, so we're going to be late. Both of us arrived at SCA and we talked a little bit, you know. But yeah, anyways, when we arrived at SCA, there are another 3 girls or 4 who were also like walking around, because we entered the building and we entered the 2nd floor. And it's cool again because I and Thomas had been there in the SCA building, and I filmed a bunch, so I've already been there. But the classroom is supposedly 204, room 204, but it's not there. We went to room 204 and there's nobody. And then there's another 3 girls who are also going to 300. So there's another guy, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's 300." So at some point we thought, "Oh, so they moved to room 300." And then I thought about it for a little bit and I thought, "No, wait. I think he meant that we're in the class 300. CTCS 300 and not in room 300. Oh. Okay. And then we went to there's another girl who joined us. We took the elevator and we went to the 3rd floor. Oh no, before that there's another room and it's like 201. We decided to go into 201. Or no, it's room 216. We went into room 216 to find a group of people, a group of students and a professor or a TA. And then Ryan was the first person to go in and was like, "Oh, you know where's 300?" And the person's like, "No, this is 201. And yeah, and then it gets more and more confusing, and they're like, wait, this is 201, and then no, the class, and they're like, oh, okay. So we don't know if they're referring to their own class or this room or our classroom. So it gets really confusing. So I think a professor was like, oh, they're either a 316 or 216. So it's not 216, so it's probably 316. So we went to third floor, went to 316, and we finally found the room. So 7 of us, or like 6 of us, went into the room and we sat down. And thank God we're not the only 2 people who's late. But yeah. Oh yeah, when we went into the room for the class 201, room 216 for class 201, there's another girl who was sitting there who came out of the room and started following us. And she was like, are you guys 300? And I turned around and I said, yeah. Um, Turns out she's a 300 student. And she was also in the same class as me and Ryan in 394 in the Norris Theater. So she followed us as well. So we all went into room 316 late together, which is better than being late alone. Stronger in numbers. So it's weird. I don't know what we're doing here. So it's like an extra class, basically. It's led by a TA, and it's Jay, who is a black guy, 30 something years old, and he's super nice. Somehow he is probably the better professor out of all of the professors I've seen. He's so energetic, so funny, and he was like, you know what, he talked about the purpose of this class. It really is like a study class, and, he's gonna go over our learning materials and sort of like pretty much this is it, but it's required. And we played a bit of an ice-breaking game where we stand up and we walk on sides of the room. So the room is like a square. It's a little smaller than your average classroom, but it's basically a square. So the professor's here. Here's one corner. Here's another corner. This is a door. There's another corner. So we saw King Kong. If you think the film is great or good, go to this corner. If you think it's bad, go here. If you think it's meh, go here. So, like, everyone went to meh, aside from Ryan and 2 other girls. And they're in the good corner. And then the TA asked, like, okay, so why do you think it's bad? Or why do you think it's good? Why do you think it's meh, And then he's like, okay, here's a fun one. Everyone has seen Get Out, right? Good or meh? So good is here, meh is here. So when I heard Get Out, I was prepared to go to good. So everyone went to good. Aside from Rocky, the Chinese dude who I met on 300. Turns out Logan is here too. And I'm like, haha. And then the TA was like, okay, I'm gonna ask one more film. And when he said that, I'm like, oh, I'm prepared because I'm a huge cinephile. I've seen a lot of movies. So and then TA was like, okay, so it's an old film, but it's a classic or something. 1952, Ozu's Tokyo Story, and holy fuck, everyone walked to the meh wall. As in, I haven't seen it. So Rocky stayed on a meh wall for Get Out because he hasn't seen it. And I was the only person in the entire class to stand there. Holy shit. Holy fuck. This is day 3 of USC and I'm already like having such a main character moment. And I was like, oh no. So the professor asked me, so why do you think it's good? And I got a little embarrassed because I've never really like put in a spot like this. But also I do reviews. I made a review on Tokyo Story. So I was like, I just really like how Ozu approaches the family dynamic and how You don't really know what's going on until the third act, and then you see it and you're like, oh my god, and it's so sad and it's emotionally crushing. And Jay continued to talk about, yeah, so Ozu, other films and how Ozu works and his framing and composition and stuff like that. I just felt so special. It's pretentious too. Like, I don't want to be that one dude who's like, yeah, I've seen every single film ever, but yeah, holy shit. Somehow in USC, I'm still more of a cinephile than most other people. It's insane. So anyways, we went back to our seats, and then at some point Jay was like, oh, does anyone here know about Third Cinema? And I was the only person who raised a hand. Thank God I sat at the very back, so I didn't attract a lot of attention, but I raised my hand and immediately put it down, and a bunch of people in front of me turned to look at me for a very brief moment, but I immediately put my hands down, so they were like, who? But yeah, that's crazy. So we left, and I was gonna call free lift home, but it never came, so I took a bus home, which is easy. Thank God I didn't wait. I didn't have to wait a long time, and I could just use my USC tap card, so it's nice. Came back home, had dinner, which is tilapia fillet, Caesar salad. Pasta. Yeah, also the Chinese guy in room 1 asked me how the washing machine worked, so I taught him how it worked, but I'm a little bit bummed out because I wanted to continue to do my laundry. But yeah, that's basically today. Pretty good. I'm just so happy. Last night Justin complimented me on how good my screenwriting is, even though I think he's only seen one of my short films. And today this happened. I just feel like, damn, film. I'm destined to excel in filmmaking. And also, today I think sort of solidified my thought of maybe I should be a teacher, like a part-time teacher. Maybe I should teach film. Like, think of how many film classes I can teach. Like, I'm qualified to teach. Like, Hong Kong film. I can teach a class, like regional film class, and I could open a section called Hong Kong cinema. I would ace that. I would be one of the few people on Earth right now who could do that in such a great way. I know it's like very narcissistic to say, but like I speak English really well. I don't speak Cantonese well, but I'm a native Cantonese speaker still. I love movies and I watch a lot of Hong Kong films, even films from the 1960s. Nobody, even in Hong Kong, even in LA, even anywhere, watches Hong Kong film from the 60s. I'm like one of the few people who's willing to do that and who can teach and wants to teach. I can teach, I don't know, film genres. I can teach political thrillers and pick 15 political thriller films. Or I can teach about horror writing technique. Hell, I can even teach outside of film. I can teach Chinese history. Art history would be fun for me to teach. Maybe if the professor from my art history class, who I'll see tomorrow, if she's a Hong Konger, maybe I can, find some leeway and somehow end up being a TA for art history, despite the fact that I'm a film major. Like, it's wild. Like, even in American film history class today, like, the professor was giving examples on, like, European art films, and the examples are Breathless, 8.5, Bicycle Thieves, Seventh Seal, Cleo from 5 to 7. I've seen 3 out of those 5 films, and I've heard of all of them. How many people in the class saw this many? Again, maybe I'm talking out of my own ass right now, but like, I can imagine myself not having even heard of these films and then watching these clips and be like, ooh, what are these boring European films? but I love them and I know how to sell them and make them sound cool. I know, like, the Seventh Seal looks so bad in the trailer. It looks like a sappy costume drama. I mean, it is a sappy costume drama, but I fucking loved it, and I feel like if I was the professor, I would be able to sell that film way more. So yeah. Yeah. I don't know, and I'm just thinking to myself, because I always think of how people like Natalie or Cedric or some other people would think of me as incapable. Like, Enoch is incapable. He's constantly whining and ranting because life throws shit at him and he just doesn't know how to handle it. Like, and it's true. Like, eating, sleeping, cooking, like, I struggle in everything. But at the same time, filmmaking, I'm just, it's meant to be, you know? It's just meant to be. So, yeah. Yeah.